Hello and welcome to a very special Unsourced Wall unboxing. We're going to be taking a look at the brand new Master Universe Origins Anti-Eternia He-Man, which, looks pretty cool. And I really wanted to get a look at this and really sort of dig into everything about it. Now, this isn't a character that I was really sort of familiar with. The reason I bought this was not only am I kind of like really getting into Master Universe Origins figures, at least the He-Man and Skeletor variants and incarnations, but I had the pleasure of reading the recent Masters of the Multiverse miniseries that DC put out, which was kind of a capstone to a series of miniseries that they had been doing concerning the Masters of the Universe brand, written by Tim Seeley, with art by Dan Fraga. And Anti-Eternia He-Man is the villain in that, and he was one of the most entertaining villains I've ever read, and it was a really entertaining story. And I guess that's kind of like the kind of crux of this franchise as a whole. Make a fun story, and you sell a toy based off the back of that. And for sure, Masters of the Multiverse definitely sold me on getting this figure, on getting something of this character. So points to Mattel for that. Anyway, let's crack this thing open. Fresh out of the box is the mini comic, which tells kind of like the first encounter with Anti-Eternia He-Man in this continuity. He was originally introduced in an audio play for the German branch of the Master Universe franchise. And then, of course, in the Master Universe Classics universe, he had his own backstory. And then in the Masters of the Multiverse comic miniseries, he had his entirely different backstory. So this is yet again another introduction to the character in the Sunman Rises mini comic, which is meant to promote all the stuff in this toy wave, including Sunman, who I've already kind of pre-ordered. I had pre-ordered for a while, the retail version, not the Mattel Creations version, which would have been nice to have. But I'm really getting that for posterity, because I think it's really kind of neat, the backstory of that character and why he exists and all that kind of stuff, which we'll get to once I get that figure in. But other than that, here is Anti-Eternia He-Man, done in all black plastic with a red and orange color scheme, very Halloween colors. And he has a full black power sword, which is really cool. I like that. I think that's awesome. It's really fun to see all the colors the power swords come in now, especially full ones. We have the full gray power sword, the full silver power sword, yellow power sword, the purple power sword for Skeletor. It's all really good and fun. And also a full black battle axe. So Anti-Eternia He-Man doesn't come with two gripping hands. And I'm not quite sure where you would get a second gripping hand. There are ways to get different gripping hands for the other characters, but for something like this, something so specialized, it seems like it's going to be kind of a wash. So we're just going to leave that be for now. And that just kind of slides into the back. Decent enough fit. And a black and orange version of the shield, which I guess we can just kind of slip it through his fingers. We don't need to worry about that. Nice grip. And he looks pretty cool. Again, it's a very nice, simple color scheme. Very simple design. It's the regular He-Man body in the Origins line. And there's not anything that different. What's most captivating, of course, is this really creepy face. It's the regular vintage head face, but it has white pupils and red lining around the pupils, so it just looks really, really menacing, even though it's like the regular He-Man face. So that's a nice effect. And the paint job isn't the best on mine, and I've seen a lot of complaints about this as well. It's kind of sloppy around the back and the shoulders. The paint and the armor squares don't really align that well, but it's hard to tell, honestly, because the black is such like a overpowering color on this figure that any kind of paint or color kind of overrides itself. So unless you're like really inspecting it from like a fair short distance, it doesn't really look like anything's off. And any kind of slop, honestly, because it's like an evil kind of menacing villain. He has the power of Hell Grayskull, that kind of stuff. I don't really mind that much because like it's a villain. So if he's like a little more disoriented or disorganized or sloppy, it just makes him look more menacing and more evil, more corrupt. So like paint slop and paint blemishes, I don't really mind it much. And yeah, all kitted out, or as kitted out as he ever gonna be. He looks really nice, and I do like the joints on this. I've had a lot of issues with the joints and like the tolerances on these Origins figures. I've had to like do the Pledge 4 finish fix on the joints from this line a bunch of times. but he stands up really nicely like first off. He cuts quite a figure. But let's compare him with the ultimate complete He-Man I have, which should be fun. And here they go. Same size, same height, same build, same everything. But this He-Man is definitely a lot more kitted out, has a lot more accessories. He's definitely looking like he's packing a lot of heat, which makes sense because Anti-Eternia He-Man in the Masters of the Multiverse comic was sort of like rampaging throughout the multiverse to kill every He-Man imaginable. So He-Man, packing some extra kind of ammunition, some extra armaments, makes sense. He's going up against something this evil and powerful. He wants to come prepared. But one thing I found really interesting about Masters of the Multiverse is that his whole gimmick was that he would steal other power swords. So if we got rid of the shield for a second and we took the combined power sword of the kind of original waves of the He-Man and Skeletor figures from Origins, and we used this little handle and did that old trick where they kind of just slip the handle above the palm of the open hand just to sort of like wedge it in there, get kind of a fake grip on it because he doesn't have any two gripping hands. He sort of looks like he's collected and is wielding both power swords, just like his comic version did. And I think that's really kind of cool. It's a nice way of trying to like kind of integrate that story into the figure itself. Dual wielding power swords and sort of like collecting them. I think that's really fun. And just that possibility was also another reason why I got this figure. Just to see how that would look. And I think it looks fantastic. So that's great. And again, going against the one He-Man who has the single power sword and he has two, recreates that story and that comic really well in action figure form. So that's exciting and I really enjoy that. One thing I forgot to mention while I was editing this, I totally remembered that there actually is also an Anti-Eternia Skeletor from the Masters of the Multiverse comic. And now that we have Anti-Eternia He-Man, of course he's inspired by an entirely different thing, an old German audio play like I mentioned. I still think it'd be really awesome to get that Anti-Eternia Skeletor as well, so that this is like a complete pair, because they were so tied together in the comic, and it'd be really fun. Even though I'm not the biggest fan of Anti-Eternia Skeletor's design, it would be pretty fun. It'd be a nice novelty, so fingers crossed for that. Anyway, that's it for this look at Anti-Eternia He-Man. I really enjoyed this figure. If I had any complaints, it was that it has this weird gap between the arm and the kind of bicep, which makes it look like the arm is kind of falling off. You can't really see it on camera that well, but if in person, it's really, really noticeable. I like to see this gap. It's not really flush like other parts of the figure can be. And since this is kind of a specialized figure, it's really not going for as cheap as like the standard He-Man and Skeletor figures are. So it's not something you can easily kind of just get a replacement for and swap out the arms and limbs with, like you can do with those figures. You get like a faulty defect figure. So I'm just gonna live with that. And that's like pretty much like the biggest complaint I have. Other than that, it's really solid. I enjoy it. And it just stacks well against the others in this line. And I really enjoy that. So overall, I would give it like maybe one thumb up, one thumb middle. Could be better, but for what it is and what it represents and just a story I really enjoy, I gotta give it like 10 out of 10. It's really nice to have. And I can't wait to get like more He-Man and Skeletors, like the 2000X versions of those to round out this whole Masters and Multiverse thing, like the comic he's from. And overall, I really enjoy it. So like 10 out of 10, honestly, despite all the flaws it does have. Anyway, leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know what you think about this figure. Have you read Masters of the Multiverse? Have you even heard like the actual German audio play this is from? And what are your thoughts on the figure? Are you going to pick it up? Are you going to try to pick it up? Because I know that, like I said, specialized figure, it's not going for cheap like these two are. So it can be a little bit dicey out there. But let me know what you think. And thank you for listening. Hope to see you around next time and have a good one.